so in the last video we drew out our fish and we started to think about colour blending. Now if you didn't want to have colour blended, you could of course have just started to add in block areas of colour within your spaces. So you could be doing different areas of block colour, that would be fine. But I would like to see most of you having a go at this colour blending because it's part of the work we've been doing through our colour project already. Okay, so back to this main side of the fish that we've got, and I might have accidentally got the pastel on there, that's okay. So we've got hot areas here, you can see now finished it off. We've got some cold areas and we've just got one last area I need to finish. Now what I would say is it's quite nice if you want to put on some whites maybe for the eye. I'm going to go for it and add some cold colours just so it's got all different areas of hot and cold colours, but it's up to you. And the reason I've left this little bit is just to say to you as I'm doing it, you must make sure that there are no white gaps on any areas of your fish. So if you notice here, I can see a white gap there. So I just must make sure that at the end I've gone round using the same colour for the same area, and I've just made sure all of my white gaps are missing, anywhere you might see them. It's really important. Tiny ones won't matter, but anywhere there's a little stripe, it will just make your work better. So I'm going to just do this last bit green around the edges of the eye. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see that as I'm doing it. There we go. So green around the eye, and then I'm going to go into blue in the middle of it to match the other three cold areas I've already got. Okay, so here is the blue. Going in. There we go. Okay, so that is our fish completed, and we are going to go on to the next stage of our Sgraffito. So I've already explained, I think I have, if not, here we go again, that Sgraffito is putting a base down and then having a second layer on top that we can scratch off. So scruff sounds a bit like scratch, and we can scratch it off and we can reveal the colour underneath, and we can use this to create patterns, as I'll show you now. Now, because I have specific areas that I'd like to be different pieces of the fish, I'm going to do this in sections and stages. I could, if I wanted to, go over the entire fish with a thin layer of black oil pastel, but if I was going to do that, I wouldn't be able to tell where I put my colour. So I'm going to start bit by bit, starting with this middle fin here. Now you put a thin layer, but a coverable layer, all over the oil pastel you've already done. I think there's a plane going overhead, I'm not sure if you can hear it. So I'm just going to make sure I've added pastel all over that area that I wish to start with. Okay, now you'll notice that you can see some gaps in the oil pastel, you can see little bits, but actually when we start scratching off we'll still see some nice colours underneath. So you're going to need a compass, or it might be that you have a scribe in today's lesson, or it might be that you're using a plastic rod, it might be that you've got a cocktail stick, but basically we need a sharp end. So and this, you can do it at home if you've got compasses and oil pastels as well. So it might be that you've looked at your tropical fish and you think, right, there's lots of stripes on my tropical fish, and you can start to scratch away the black oil pastel to reveal some of the colours. And because we've got some nice areas of colour blending, the colours will start to change as we move up the fish, if you look here. Okay? So you can begin to see the colours change. And it could be that once you've done your stripy pattern like this and you've finished to the end, that you might want to put in some extra patterns because you think it looks a bit plain. But what you don't need to do is scratch out everything, because you might as well not have put the oil pastel on then, okay? So it might be that you want to add some different patterns. Maybe I make this a bit stripy inside, thinking about Scarface's patterns and how he had areas of dark and light, but lots of patterns in between, nice and balanced, okay? So you could carry on doing that area there. Maybe at the bottom here we change it up and we have some zigzags to build up at the end there, okay? So once you've done that section, now I know I can see clearly where that section was, I can start to build in some dark on my other sections. So I'll just do a little bit of this section. I would colour in a whole section at a time, so I'd probably usually, if I wasn't trying to show you quickly on a video, cover this whole area here apart from the eye and the two fins. But I want to sort of show you how we can maybe make it obvious that it's separate from the fin. So I'm just going to carefully put some black oil pastel on. The other thing you need to watch out for is that you don't get too much oil pastel sort of pieces that are on top. So just really carefully try to wipe those away and scratch those off. And then here we could maybe even outline, say if I've done the whole thing, maybe we could start to scratch off to outline where that fin comes in. And then I fancy having some dots and spots on this bit. Then I'll just start to scratch those in. I could have them a bit more abstract, maybe I have them quite neat, or maybe I have them so I can see the sort of like scribbles around them as they get bigger, I don't know. Maybe you want one really neat with absolutely no lines in it, so maybe you draw the shape out and then you go back and you just make sure that all of the scratchings come out of it. Some smaller than others to fit in the gaps, because you'll find that tropical fish often, they have these interlocking shapes because that's what nature usually does. They sort of seem to interlock in with each other. So once you've finished, you will have made yourself a lovely Sgraffito fish, and these colours will start to come through and they'll start to pop as you've finished. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there and you're going to have a go at that now.